After Eden. Chapter 1. The Silence After the Fall. The world ended, not with a thunderclap, but with a whisper. What was once called civilization collapsed under the weight of its ambition. Great towers of steel and glass fell into silence, and the hum of machines turned into the howling wind. Amid the ruins of broken cities and cracked earth, the survivors learned to live in the gaps between day and night, hope and despair. Among them walked a woman named Sara. Her steps were silent, her eyes sharp. She carried not only weapons, but memories she dared not remember. She moved like a shadow, navigating the twisted remnants of the world with purpose, but no direction. To her, survival was a reflex. Emotion was a liability. Somewhere far from the cities, in the decaying remains of an underground lab, once operated by a forgotten organization called EDE and something awakened. It did not have a name or past. It emerged from the darkness like a breath held too long, stepping into the dying light with the body of a man, but the eyes of a void. He did not know his name. He did not know the world, but something pulled him forward. He became known only as Jacob. Chapter 2. The Encounter. The two paths converged in the Red Zone, one of the most dangerous regions left untouched by the restoration efforts. Sara had been sent to retrieve coordinates lost during a failed recon mission. When she entered a derelict research complex, overgrown with moss and glass shards, she expected death, not someone waiting. There he stood, surrounded by shadows and dust, calm yet alert. She almost fired. Her instincts told her he was wrong, not entirely human. But she hesitated. Jacob watched her, not with fear, but recognition. Something in her presence stirred something deep within him, something primal and tender. He could not speak it. He did not know what it meant. But he felt it. She should have left. She should have run. But instead, she stayed. Chapter 3. The Connection. They traveled together, first through obligation, then through necessity. In time, through trust. Jacob's senses were inhuman. He could sense anomalies before they appeared. He navigated radiation storms and shifting terrain without maps. His skin didn't blister from exposure like others, yet he never explained why. Sara watched him with suspicion that turned to awe. Her carefully built walls cracked, though she didn't know why. At night, they sat by fires built from splintered wood, staring into the flames and avoiding the questions that burned deeper. Jacob's dreams became clearer. He saw her face in another time, dressed in white, smiling in a laboratory of light. He saw their hands together. He felt warmth. He felt a promise. Sara began to see visions too. A voice calling her name. A fall. A scream. A hand slipping from hers. She awoke gasping, feeling a grief she didn't remember earning. Then they found it, an abandoned EDEN observatory deep in the mountains. The servers still ran. The data still pulsed. And what they discovered changed everything. Chapter 4. Origins. The EDEN project had once believed that love could stabilize dimensional fractures. While science failed where power tried, emotion remained the one constant. They had chosen a pair, two researchers, bound not only by intellect, but by love. They were the anchors. When the experiment went wrong, she was purged. He was preserved. Sara and Jacob were the test subjects. The truth hit them not with clarity, but with weight. They had been torn apart by the same hands that tried to save the world. Their memories stolen, their lives erased. But something had endured. Something had drawn them back together. It was not fate. It was design. But within that design, Something genuine had taken root again. Chapter 5. The Enemy of Humanity. Not everyone believed EDEN should have survived. The Black Directive, a militant force forged from the remains of the military-industrial complex, had its own vision for humanity. It saw emotion as a weakness. It saw Sara and Jacob as threats. They sent hunters, soldiers shaped by exposure to raw energy, half-human monstrosities bred in laboratories. Among them was a being known only as Null. Null was not born. It was extracted. A failed copy. A dark mirror of Jacob without conscience or soul. It sensed their bond and hunted them relentlessly, not to destroy them, but to sever their connection permanently. Sara and Jacob ran. They fought when they had to. But with each encounter, Null grew stronger, feeding off their fear, evolving into something worse. They had one option left: return to the source, the original rupture. Chapter 6. The Final Battle. The source was not a place but a wound in reality. There, the sky churned in unnatural colors. Trees bent sideways. Time fractured. The earth trembled at the presence of memory itself. Nothing human should have survived there. But Jacob wasn't fully human anymore. He led the charge against Null, who emerged from the anomaly like an avatar of hate. Their battle wasn't one of muscle, but of will. Each strike between them caused ripples in the fabric of space. Sara couldn't intervene until the moment she could. She reached Jacob and touched his shoulder. At that instant, all of their memories returned, flowing back into her like a flood. Laughter, kisses, promises, loss, and love. That love destabilized the anomaly. Null began to dissolve. The rupture started closing. But the collapse demanded a price. Only one could hold the convergence open long enough to seal it. Jacob stepped forward. Without a word, without hesitation, he gave himself to the anomaly. Not to die, but to save her. To save everything. Sara tried to stop him, but he was already gone. The light consumed the source. The rupture sealed, and the world exhaled. Chapter 7. The Aftermath. Without the rupture, life began to grow again. The storms weakened. The anomalies retreated. The earth, long dormant, began to breathe. Sara returned alone. Her heart was shattered, but her purpose was clear. She built a sanctuary where the observatory had stood. She called it after Eden, a place of remembrance, a place of peace. She shared her knowledge with others, especially the young. She planted stories like seeds, hoping some would blossom into a future she might never see. Years passed. She never forgot him. She felt his presence in the wind, in her dreams, in the quiet between days. Chapter 8. The Return. 10 years later, on an ordinary morning, someone appeared at the gate. A man, young, calm, familiar. He looked at Sara with clear eyes, but no recognition. He did not remember her, but something about her kept him still, watching, waiting. Her heart knew before her mind caught up. It was Jacob. He had returned, not as the man he had been, but as a blank slate. The world had given him back, though his memories were lost. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She simply welcomed him in. Over time, he stayed. He helped. He smiled again. And one day, he reached for her hand without knowing why. Epilogue. After Eden. The world was broken, but not beyond repair. Sara stood on the hill where the rupture had once torn the sky. Now it was green and whole. Birds sang again. Wind moved gently through the trees. She closed her eyes. Love had saved the world, not through power, but sacrifice. Not through memory, but the eternal return of feeling. It had brought them back to each other. Even death had not won, because even at the end of all things, love remained.